I'm Professor Pi. Welcome to my daily mathematical adventures. Hey, don't forget me. I'm Cowboy Rufus. I'm your favorite student. Okay, this is the last quad that we are going to talk about. It's the square. We've already done the kite and the trapezoid, and they're kind of weird. But we did the parallelogram, we did the rectangle, we did the rhombus. Now it's time to talk about the square. The properties of a square is G.co.b.6 and G.gpe.b.3. Today's learning objective, your I can statement is, I can memorize and use the properties of a square. You've already memorized many of these properties. A square is a parallelogram, a square is a rectangle, and a square is a rhombus. That is, a square is defined as a parallelogram that has four right angles and four congruent sides. It's got four congruent sides, four right angles. It is a rhombus, it is a rectangle, it is a parallelogram. This makes our chart very, very simple. Get out your quad chart, move to the quad chart on your books. And the easiest way to do this would be to start at the bottom. Is a square a parallelogram? Yes, it is. Is the square a rhombus? It's equal-sided. That makes it a rhombus. Is the square a rectangle? It has four right angles. That makes it a rectangle. Now, a square has all the properties of a parallelogram, a rhombus, and a rectangle. So now in the parallelogram column, which is the green one, a square has every single Y that's in the green column, bring it over to the blue. And I'm going to do it, and then I'll wait for you to get caught up. Every single place that there's a Y in the green, the Y goes to the blue. One Y will be fine. I don't need two. Now, if there's a zero, just leave it blank for now. But if there's a Y, bring it over. Now, start at the bottom again. Is it a parallelogram? Yes, it is. We've got 12 Ys that we brought over from the parallelogram. Is it a rectangle? Yes, it is. Is it a rhombus? Yes, it is. So now we're going to look at it. If it's 0, 0, 0, this is also a no, because that's only true about a trapezoid. If there's a Y in the gray, the purple, or the green, we're going to bring it over to the blue. Take a look at four congruent sides. If it wasn't true about a parallelogram, it wasn't true about a rectangle, it was true about a rhombus, and a square is a rhombus, so put a Y there. Next, we come down to four congruent right angles. It was not true about most parallelograms. It was true about, it was not true about a rhombus. It was true about a rectangle. Since a square is a rectangle, put a Y over there. Diagonals are congruent. It was not true necessarily about a rectangle. Were they congruent about a rectangle? I don't know. Draw a rectangle and check the diagonals. Do they look like they're congruent? When we get diagonals form two congruent triangles, when I get down here, if they form two congruent triangles, if you have the diagonals, do they form four congruent triangles? I know it's not on my chart, but yes, when we get to diagonals are congruent, it's true about a square. Diagonals are perpendicular. It was not true about parallelogram, not true about a rectangle. It was true about a rhombus. A square is a rhombus, so put a Y there. Once again, if there's a Y anywhere in these three columns, we're going to bring it over to the square. Now, what do you have? The square on your chart has 1, 0. Only one set of parallel sides, that's the trapezoid. And that's everything about the square. But maybe I ought to tell you about the test. Because I'm not giving you a true-false test with 25 questions, and only one of them is false. So depending on which copy of the test you get, you're going to have to actually read the question, because some questions will say, a square does not have two pair of parallel sides. Opposite sides are not congruent on a square. A square does not have 4 congruent sides. Consecutive angles in a square are not supplementary. So I'm going to move around a few so that it's a true-false test. I don't need to give you a true-false test with 25 questions and only one of them false. So some of them will have the negative inserted. Study carefully. The next time I see you, you'll have a test on the square. Cowboy, you understand the square? Cowboy. Oh, yeah, I forgot. His hat's up here. I think Cowboy's absent today. I think that's his first absence this semester. Cowboy, at home, make sure you study for this square test. Everybody else at home, make sure you study. The next time you get in here, we're going to give you the square test. Hey, White. Hey, White. I wasn't absent. I just came in kind of tardy. You know, like some of the other students in this school, I overslept a little, had a little bit too much fun late last night, and all of a sudden I wake up but I ain't absent because there's still 4 minutes left in this class. And Professor Pi, he wants me to go over the chart with you because your last test, we're going to give you all 4 of these columns, and you're going to need to know yes or no, true or false on all of them. So only one set of parallel sides has a 0 everywhere. The parallelogram, Professor Pi said it's easier for me to figure out what it's not than it is. The parallelogram should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 zeros. Make sure they're all in the same place as mine. Well, it's just not mine. Professor Pi's chart has to be right. I just copied his. There should be a 0 at only one set. Should be a 0 at 4 congruent sides. Should be a 0 at 4 congruent right angles. A 0 at diagonals are congruent. 0 at diagonals are perpendicular. And a parallelogram is not a square. It's not a rhombus. It's not a rectangle. In the rectangle column, you should have 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. A rectangle is not a rhombus. A rectangle does not have diagonals that are perpendicular. A rectangle does not have 4 congruent sides. And of course, a rectangle is not a trapezoid, so it does not have only one set of parallel sides. Hi, y'all got that yet? Wait a minute. Make sure you got 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. Everything else is true about that rectangle. Now, let's go to the rhombus. And by the way, Professor Pi told me that there ain't no such thing as rhombuses. They're supposed to be called rhombi. I don't know why. I never learned that much English grammar, but okay. The rhombus column, it has a 0 where the trapezoid is. Only one set of parallel sides because it's not true. It has another 0 down here at 4 right angles. Professor Pye wanted me to remind you that a baseball diamond is not a baseball square. Home plate starts like this. Home plate doesn't start at the right angle. I wish it did, because then there'd be a lot bigger strike zone. Okay, maybe it'd be a smaller strike zone. I don't know nothing about no baseball. And then there's a zero down here. A rectangle and a rhombus are not the same thing. So the rhombus column should have 1, 2, 3 zeros. Make sure you got your zeros where I got my zeros. And then everything else is a yes. That rhombus test is going to be really easy. And then we come to the square. The square is a rectangle, rhombus, and parallelogram. So in your chart there, you got 1, 0. This one. A square is not a trapezoid, so it has 2 parallel sides, not 1. Okay, Professor, how'd I do? Hey, he thinks I've done a good job. He's going to let me teach some more real soon. Thanks for watching another Professor Pye video. Yeah, y'all come back tomorrow. Cowboy Rufus and Professor Pye will teach you something new.